Get strong.
Howdy everyone, welcome back to JimKiDo. I'm Jim. Here we are, once again, messing around with Absolute Drift Zen Edition for the Xbox One. So to be clear, I've reset all my scores back to 0. I actually like this feature a lot. So for all these attempts, what you see is what you get. Trying to apply what I'm talking about in this video. Ever since my first getting started video on this game, I've become mildly addicted to it. After each event, I keep on saying, okay, one more time, because I've almost got this. Or, what? I missed out by one multiplier, clip, whatever. Come on. And just look at it. The skid marks from the car look like the product of an oversugared toddler with an exoskeleton. Still a thing, right? And I loved those things when I was a kid. Plus, they remind me of antics of the Top Gear Grand Tour guides, how they would make lewd pictographs with burnout and donut marks. But while I've improved my scores and ranking, which I'll show off to you in this video, I wanted to take a moment to speak to what I couldn't in the previous episode on this game. Learning. While one of the guiding edicts of this channel is to focus on games that are ported to the console from another platform and show the benefit, another guidance has been to engage on games that will make problem solving and other learning aspects fun. To this point, I'd like to introduce you to the parabola. Now, before you fall asleep in another maths class, give me a second to show you where I'm coming from on this. A parabola, in Euclidean or classical geometric terms, is a plane curve, i.e. a curve in a plane, which is mirror symmetrical, in other words, has the same curve dimension on either side, and is approximately U-shaped. And what you have in a perfect drift is basically a parabola. Now, according to Wikipedia, the parabola has a number of specific parts to it, and I will try and explain them in drifting terms. First off is the focus. This is essentially the apex of a turn that you're trying to drift around. Next is the directrix. This is like the outside wall of the track, which you want to avoid. Next, we have the axis of symmetry. This is a virtual line you could draw from the focus to the directrix that would precisely have your drifted path, or parabola. Next up is the vertex. This is the point where the axis of symmetry crosses your drifting path. Lastly, appropriately enough, is the latus recta. This is a parallel line to the directrix that also crosses the axis of symmetry at the focus. In 3 dimensions, we would note this as the lip or edge of a bowl or cup. While that is the makeup of a parabola, and I know I said that a perfect drift was a parabola, most of these drifts are not perfect. Most of these drifts would actually be considered hyperbolas, extreme or acute curves. In this game, depending on how fast you are drifting and how close you are to the apex, the focus, or wall, the directrix, the points you end up scoring can be significantly different. And don't forget your angle of attack, or how far you oversteer the car. Another way of putting it in these terms is the sooner the rear of the car crosses the axis of symmetry compared to the front of the car, the higher the points or multiplier will be in general. Not a bad bit of effort on this tutorial event so far, but I think a 15x multiplier is the best I'll get from this particular car. So let's switch to the clipping tutorial. Here, the deal isn't multipliers, but how sideways, and close, can we get to the bollards, and at what speeds? So if the particular event is about clipping, like this one is, you will need hyperbolas to make the most points. But if you're trying to bag multipliers, higher speed parabolas seem to be the better bet. And from a realistic standpoint, this would make sense. Hyperbolas would be hard to maintain at speed, given that the whole point is to scrub speed as the drive tire is at such an extreme angle to the direction of travel. Whereas the parabola is at a milder angle to the direction of travel and as such allows for more of the driving potential of the tire to propel you forward. Now, I will admit that these particular examples aren't helping my case much, but you can see my drifts here have been largely like parabolas, and it shows in the points per bollard, not more than 300 and 400 apiece. I found this event difficult to maintain a good flow with hyperbolas. With hyperbolic trajectories, I should be seeing 500 to 700 points per bollard. But I think I'd need a bit more speed, and that was difficult to come by with the basic car you start off with. Now that wasn't too bad. Not a personal best, but decent. The next area should show what I'm talking about a bit better. I know this video has been a serious geek or boffin special, and I appreciate those who have stuck around this long. Here's where it can get really good for those of you who have tried this game. If you take two opposing parabolas and join them together, you get a circle, and you've seen several examples of this so far. If you join two similar hyperbolas together in the same manner, you would have an ellipse. In this game, if you can put those together on the track, you will be racking up the points and the ranking in little time at all. This particular track can be a lot of fun, for sure. Those drifting dots you see at either end of the track really seem to be set for a shallow drifting approach. If you can consistently hook up these points along with a high multiplier, your end score will be mammoth. One technique I find that I do is when I miss a drifting entry point, like I did right there, I will try and swing as wide as I can and build up the multiplier for the next round. When I get it just right, the multiplier, along with the drifting dot points, bring in mega points all around. But as you can see, if you get a high enough multiplier, you can still kill it. Now to move on to a track with which, lately, I haven't fared well. It's a practical application of all three of the previous tracks, with both inside and outside turns. And the track level goals are quite challenging, if I'm honest. There are lots of opportunities to mess up a run out of the track. Here you need to switch out between parabolic and hyperbolic trajectories. That does not make it easy to maintain speed. I found I was constantly having to do last minute slides just to keep my multiplier. Not to mention that there still seems to be a bug or two on this track. There were multiple times when I crashed my bumper into a wall and didn't lose my multiplier, and other times when it felt like I should have picked up a clipping score and yet didn't. So I guess you could say there was some balance to the bugs, just not a consistency. I'm sure as a software developer myself, this would be super frustrating to try and resolve. These next couple of runs were all decent, personal bests each time, holding on to the parabola drifts as long as possible, all while doing my best to fail before completely losing the back end. Working with the game controller just feels like the right kind of controller to use with this game, but I can also feel that I'm wearing out the right trigger. Might be time for a new controller set. This last run, though, was on a different level from the rest. Don't get me wrong, it was far from perfect, and I could tell I'd left a lot of points on the track. But enough things went right that there was a buildup of momentum that kept pushing the multiplier higher. By the end, I missed only one track level goal, and almost picked up an achievement in the process. One more point I wanted to cover before we wrap up here. If you have tried this game and still find it difficult to steer, check your settings for the turn sensitivity. You can adjust it in 10% increments up or down, and that just might help. Turning it down by 10% seemed to work for me. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, crush that like button, as that helps this video's ranking and reaching to more gamers like you. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. Also, keep an eye out for our upcoming Space Engineer series, Never Surrender, Icebound. We're working hard on the post-production of the first episode and hope to have that released soon. Thanks for everyone's support, especially on Reddit and Discord. It means a lot to us. And remember, stay safe out there.